Alright, next up we have got Ayutthaya. So this is one of the new players. We've got Brothers Ale playing over in Ayutthaya. I'm expecting Ayutthaya to be absorbing some of their neighbours. They are still allied to Portugal and Bahmanis, so in no immediate danger from some of their larger neighbours and nearby actors. But the relations between Ayutthaya and Malacca are going to be interesting. I'm wondering if these two are going to be coexisting, or whether Ayutthaya is going to be watching their southern neighbour with hungry eyes, and whether Malacca is going to be very wary towards Ayutthaya, because Malacca is entirely diplomatically isolated. Right now they would be up against the Bahmanis and Ayutthaya, and I don't think that's a fight they can win. They might just be going super isolationist, saying, I don't want to get drawn into politics at all, leave me alone. If they're doing that, though, I think that they do need to be going for way more armed neutrality. They need to make themselves really difficult to conquer. I want to see forts appearing everywhere. I want to see choke points. I want to see a huge navy of light ships and heavy ships so that they can do blockades as well as naval combat. And right now I'm not really seeing that, and that does make me a little concerned for Malacca, because right now they're looking kind of a tempting target. We have Bacon Killer over in Spain. The former triumvirate between England, France and Spain now having ended, with France and Spain being the only members left. Spain has started to colonize and is colonizing rather vigorously. There is a little bit of a colonial conflict going on down in Argentina between Portugal and Spain, but otherwise they have kept their territories very, very separate, and I think there's going to be more of a competition between Britain and Spain in terms of colonial overlap. Britain having a couple of colonies here, there, and Spain also having gone for some of the juiciest territories early. Although this does mean that Spain does not have a consolidated colonial nation. So if Britain, for example, was able to build up a more cohesive, contiguous colonial nation, then they could use colonial wars to just take the Spanish territories. The Spanish colonial nation would really struggle to fight against that. Also, Mexico has not fallen to anyone, so the fate of Mexico is going to be another one to watch. We do have Spanish colonies starting to emerge in the north. No other real competition for it just yet. England could potentially get there. Possibly Inca as well. Especially now that Inca have reformed. They are in the tech race. Inca are a modern nation. They are no longer one of the native nations. So they could also become a player over here. And I wonder how the Inca feel about Portugal and Spain being in South America, and whether that will lead to future conflicts as well. Then we've got Bjornvar over in Ethiopia. Ethiopia having been relatively quiet thus far, although they have just taken out Ajuran in like one fell gulp. Oh. I actually was saying that Ajuran looked like one of the stronger AI nations. They were pretty much fully occupied at the end of the previous session. I hadn't quite realised it was by Ethiopia, so I'm kind of glad that I did not put a player in Ajuran, otherwise that would have ended very poorly for them there. We do have Morocco going after Mutapa, so Congo being beaten to the punch here by the Moroccans, who used their colony as a staging ground for taking more territory, and I think that Congo is going to regret this. One thing we have said about Congo before is they're possibly not being aggressive enough, particularly compared to Morocco and Tunis. Have really done an excellent job of just gobbling up everything around them. Congo was rather more reticent to do that, and I think are going to be regretting not taking Mutapa. They basically needed to take Central Africa and haven't. Their colonies might be able to make up for it, but if Mutapa falls to Morocco, Morocco is also a colonizer, so then we're going to have some more conflicts rising here. I don't think Ethiopia has colonists. They don't. Defensive ideas and religious ideas, so Ethiopia doesn't seem particularly interested in grabbing this territory, so that is going to be between the Congo and probably Morocco now. Next up we have Bahmanis. Bahmanis being the second most powerful nation in the world at the moment, although if they manage to get their colonialism institution, they would actually overtake the Ottomans and be first, although it is pretty close between them. The Bahmanis have been throwing their weight around. They have started to consolidate their takings in Jaunpur. Jaunpur no longer being played by a player, so it is good to go and open for feeding. Delhi is definitely being left in their shadow, and I do worry a little bit about the alliance between the... Oh, no, they're not even allied anymore. Well, I guess we have that then. I did suspect that Bahmanis would go after Delhi as soon as Jaunpur was defeated. I think it was a massive mistake for Delhi to be joining the Bahmanis against Jaunpur. The only way that they were going to stymie Bahmanis expansion was if they worked together, and they did not. doomed Jaunpur, and I think that Delhi, honestly, is going to be next on the chopping block. Like, it's just such obvious expansion for the Bahmanis. Whether the other Muslim powers will stand by Delhi, watching the Bahmanis with wariness, I don't know. I think they probably think they're relatively safe, and the Muslim powers have been working together in the past, like when Oira and Bahmanis were at war. They all provided funds and equipment and troops for the Bahmanis in that conflict, even though they were fighting against Jaunpur. So, yeah, I honestly think that Delhi has made a huge miscalculation there, and I very strongly suspect we'll be seeing a war between those two before too long. Next up, we have got fewer in Austria, as we mentioned earlier. Austria's not really Austria. Austria is Hungary and Bohemia, but beyond that, Austria is the empire. And this is probably one of the mightiest Holy Roman Empires I've seen thus far. And I am really happy, and I cannot give Führer enough credit for this, really happy that we're seeing an Austria who is actually playing the empire game, as opposed to, I just want to blob out and be the big white blob. No. Empire. Like in the previous game, I gave Austria loads of goals which were related to keeping the empire alive and strong. The empire in that game Austria in that game didn't really use those goals to their desired outcome, shall we say. But Führer has really taken it to heart this time around and has gone for a strong empire, and so far none of the surrounding neighbour nations have really been able to look in and go after them. Now that space is getting a bit more of a premium, now that conflicts are more and more likely between players and alliances, that may break down. Also, internal politics within the empire may start to break down, although so far Führer has done a great job of facilitating cooperation, shall we say. Whether that lasts or not, we shall see, and that's going to be one of the real interesting challenges which a player Austria faces. But, oh man, I just wanted to go on record and say I like Austria in this game. I usually hate Austria because of my experiences as Brandenburg. This is what I was hoping to see in an Austria, and I'm really happy to see that we're finally getting it in one of the multiplayers. So, yes. Alright, we've got Jamie in Sweden. Sweden has, I think, lost to the rebels again, so they're going to be suffering from a bunch of autonomy. They've still avoided taking any loans. They're not getting any subsidies from anyone. Their forts are currently somewhat maintained. Ooh, England's going after Denmark. That's going to be upsetting to Sweden, because this is just setting England up for raids into the Baltic and potentially going towards Russia, which was apparently one of Val's stated goals. It should be noted that Val does have Malta already, so they can be raiding the Mediterranean, and I believe have been. So the Berber pirates are going to be seeing the British pirates, and I suspect we will see some kind of naval engagement and conflict down here. Although, we did last session have the Great Naval Coalition, which was Spain, Papal States... can't remember if France was part of that. Fighting against Britain. Britain won. So, naval superiority for the time being has been ensured for the Brits, but I know the Papal States was going for a fairly naval-heavy setup. They are keeping themselves at pretty much their force limit. They have got a large galley fleet, and they have been running one of the largest fleets in the game. So, I am expecting round 2, and this time I think Malta will be the war goal. If that can be held, then Britain may well lose it, because they're going to have to come into the Mediterranean. England might be going for Gotland for the victory point. Yeah, but Gotland's Gotland, it's not Denmark. And Gotland currently is allied to Sweden. So for a very long time, Gotland, I believe, was allied to England. England has apparently dropped that. Now it's Sweden trying to guarantee it. Guaranteed and allied. So the Swedes are saying, no, Gotland is ours. But if Britain's quick enough, then they can go after Gotland before Sweden recovers from the bankruptcy, which would be a problem for them. Bahmanis could also eat Ayutthaya since they ate part of the coast, their vassal in Bengal. True. I think that Bahmanis would have a lot more to gain from Delhi than Ayutthaya. I think that Ayutthaya also being... oh no, they're Theravada. They're not Muslim. Possibly, I think Ayutthaya would be harder to take. Delhi is just wide open, like they have no real defences. This is all low country. Kind of similar to Jaunpur. But wow! That's an uprising. 50, 80, 100, 120, 140, 170, 190,000 rebels. And that, oh no, we've 200,000. 220,000 rebels. Good grief. What did you do? Bahmanis are very low on manpower. They're running low on money, though they're definitely not running out of money. They are probably using a lot of mercenaries to make up for the manpower that they're losing. And they're going to be losing a lot of troops. Like, territory falling is going to be one thing. But then losing troops in these battles is going to be another. This isn't going to defeat the Bahmanis, this isn't going to break the Bahmanis, but it is going to set them back. Rebels, disappointed! Yeah, they are only particularists. They're not separatists, which are the... Oh no, there are some separatists. There are in fact quite a few separatists. Oh, I really hope someone is funding this. I really, really hope that someone is funding that. Can we actually check? I don't know if I should. Knowledge sharing, harbour fees. It's a one-off payment now, isn't it? 118 overextension. Oh, because they took John Purr. So even in death, John Purr is fighting back. Ha! Yep, that's going to be causing them some problems, and they're still a ways away from coring this stuff. Well spotted, Poet. Thank you. And no disaster. They kept their stability up. If they get a negative stability event, though, then they will be plunged into internal conflicts. And that's going to make things even worse. Because that's a big sodding revolt. 220,000 troops. And that's before... Oh, that's after I noticed. So there could well have been more. Psst, Delhi. You can get involved. No, Delhi, I think, is going after Jampur, which is the right decision. Like, they just need to, A, find allies. Right now, they're only allied to Uzbek. And B, need to take as much territory from Jampur so that Bahmanis don't take it. But Bahmanis are allied to Ajam and Ayutthaya. Ajam... I gotta hand it to the Bahmanis. They've played an excellent diplomatic game so far. Like, Bahmanis did say, I learned from the... Vijayanagar player in the past. Vijay is an extremely strong nation, but left himself completely diplomatically isolated, and did a lot of work antagonizing everyone around him, so everyone was fighting against Vijay constantly. Bahmanis were like, yeah, I've learned from that, and I'm going to be very careful to do good diplomacy with my neighbors and with the enemies of my enemies. And they've done that. Like, Bahmanis have never at all felt like they were in a vulnerable place. They've just gone from strength to strength. Their first war against Vijay was a little bit touch and go, and I did think at one point they might lose, but they pulled out a great comeback and then took over that. And
hey,
then...
Mordred.
Hello.
We just lost Torsion.
Okay.
The other thing is, when the pop-ups came up asking if we want to continue or not, it also has a little checkbox there that says the AI will control Ajam, the Papal State, and Morocco. Ajam and the Papal State are because they had the number bug at the start, so it's still technically recognizing them as not in the game through some weird mechanic. But I've unchecked that box, and it says that if I uncheck the box, the AI will be, quote, brain dead.
Okay.
So it should be okay. It should not interfere with them. But I've let the players know, and if it does, they'll let me know. We might have to either have them disconnect and hot join, or potentially rehost if it's really bad.
Okay.
But it should be fine.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, who's next? Austria! No, we already talked about Austria. We already talked about Sweden. Delhi. Okay, so... Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about, but we have talked about those. Like, Sweden, we know their situation, they're bankrupt, they're having a lot of problems, currently led by Jamie. And then Austria we did definitely talk about, because we were talking about their HRE. Bahmanis we just talked about, which leaves Delhi. So, yeah, Mindboy, kind of leaving themselves isolated here. They really need to work at finding some allies. They should probably make some overtures towards the Ottomans. If the Mamelukes, and it was the Mamelukes who were supporting the Bahmanis previously, are supporting the Bahmanis, then Delhi probably wants to look to the Ottomans and basically play on the rivalry between these two. And it should have been Jaunpur trying to get an alliance with the Ottomans, although that would be more difficult. Delhi Ottomans I can see as being more likely. But then again, if the Ottomans don't participate as heavily as they probably should, then Delhi may lose regardless. Like, Delhi is in a tough position. They are. They might be able to get Ajam to not answer any calls from the Bahmanis, but frankly, Bahmanis are just in such a strong position right now. In fact, let's do a quick comparison. So Bahmanis have got 1,110 development versus Delhi's 400. They have an income of 93 versus 29. They have an army of 43,000 versus 90,000. They're not in a good spot. Like, Delhi might be able to look to Oirat, and Oirat has shown that they are concerned about Bahmanis growth, but Oirat are having their own problems right now, and Oirat's probably way more interested in gobbling up China, because there are other players in this area who are going to be after China. So Oirat is something up against a ticking clock here, because Ayutthaya is going to be interested, Malacca might be interested, Mangindao might be interested, Japan might be interested. So yeah, there's a lot more competition over Asia right now. Oh, and tech, that's a good point. Yeah, one of the reasons that Jaunpur said we cannot beat Bahmanis was tech. Bahmanis had done a really good job keeping up, so 10, 11, 12, 9, 8, 12. So actually Delhi is ahead. Military tech, they're equal, and then Jaunpur, and this is where Jaunpur's problem were, there are 9. Like, Jaunpur really fell behind in technology. And that was the clincher for why Jaunpur said, I can't win this. Delhi's between two rocks and a hard place. Yeah. Oirat's also very interested in taking down Russia. Yeah, I think that some of the biggest conflicts we're going to see in the game is going to be the Russia versus Oirat. Like, Russia versus Europe have been fairly hefty, but I somewhat suspect that's going to be less of an issue now. I think that Russia is going to be pretty happy with the damage they've done to Poland and Lithuania. They're not going to be that much of a threat. Once Prussia appears, then maybe. I think they've done enough damage to Sweden to kind of say, hands off, go somewhere else. And I think that Sweden's also going to be more interested in Denmark and possibly northern Germany. Alright, so this is Torshin rejoining. It was the end of DDR Jake's campaign. Multiplayer prevented the Reformation by conquering all Catholics before Reformation fired, so they did it for a laugh. Oh, right. 10,000 overextension. Okay, so still no player conflicts, but after the madness of the previous session, I was very much expecting this one to be a bit quieter. So we have Oirat currently going after Xi, taking over these territories, growing into China, as I suspected they probably would. Do they have a truce with Wu? No. I'm actually a little surprised they've gone after Xi and not Wu. Wu is way more valuable. Actually, let's see if that's true. Pretty sure it's true, but we can double check. 127 development versus 154. Yeah, I thought so. And also, this would prevent, say, Japan going after Wu. I really am curious about what Japan's planning to do here. Korean separatists, yeah. I remember that in my So campaign. As soon as I took Korea, they were just way more of a problem than they were actually worth dealing with constant separatist uprisings. Japan is building a new army. It does look like they've lost a significant number of their troops. And they're getting a bit lucky that Korea's just gone, I'm bored now. I'm going to go somewhere else. They've actually gone after Oirat instead. Okay, so Japan got a bit lucky there. Japan's having to deal with some of their own rebels here. Player war. Portugal versus Malacca.